Elon Musk just put $20 billion, and I mean US dollars, not Canadian mini dollars, into Mississippi.
Today, we are here to announce the largest private investment in Mississippi history, a $20 billion plus investment by XAI in South Haven, Mississippi. They are going to create hundreds of permanent jobs and thousands of indirect subcontracting jobs and help us further grow the economy of Mississippi. My friends, as you've heard me say before, Mississippi is not just making news, we're making history. Today, we are breaking another record that some thought would never be possible. XAI's investment of up to $20 billion, again, is the largest private sector investment in Mississippi history. And it's twice the size of the previous largest investment. The tax revenue generated here as a result of this record-breaking investment will help support vital programs and services like infrastructure, public safety, health and human services, educators, firefighters, police.
You know Mississippi, right? I mean, I don't know much about it. I've never been there. I know that it is sometimes considered a caricature of the South. I think the movie Mississippi Burning about the civil rights era might be what a lot of people think of. I mean, it's a small state and it's far away from Canada, so I doubt many Canadians have ever been there. It's less than 3 million people too, so it's pretty small. Can you name a city in it? Maybe you can. But we don't know a lot about it up here in Canada. Mississippi is the poorest state in the Union. That probably won't surprise you. Now, it's also pretty cheap to live there compared to, say, New York City or San Francisco or Toronto or Vancouver. Economists have a concept called purchasing power parity. You sometimes see the letters PPP to take that into account. As in, if you earn $50,000 a year, but you live in a place where rent is really cheap and food is really cheap and gas is really cheap, you may actually be wealthier in terms of your purchasing power than someone earning $100,000 in an expensive place. I saw this chart prepared by The Hub a few months ago that compares the purchasing power of people in all 50 US states and all 10 Canadian provinces. Very interesting chart. So you can see that New York is the wealthiest jurisdiction in North America. Even though it's probably the most expensive city to be in, they earn so much more too. So their purchasing power is well over $100,000 US. That's another thing to know about this chart. It converts everything to US dollars, so you can compare Canadian provinces to it, apples to apples. So look at that. The second richest state is Massachusetts. California is up there too. North Dakota is also. That's likely because of all their oil production. Unlike their northern neighbor, Saskatchewan, North Dakotans have never heard of the concept of their federal government blocking pipelines to them. They'd probably consider it an act of war, maybe a cause for a secession, so they're rich. In fact, you have to go down to the 20th place before the first Canadian province makes its debut. That's Alberta, no surprise. Saskatchewan is at 25. Newfoundland surprised me. It's next for the Canadians. It's ahead of Ontario and BC, but I think that's partly because of purchasing power parity. They don't earn as much in St. John's perhaps as they do in Toronto, but their housing, I checked it, the average house costs $450,000 in St. John's compared to more than $1 million in Toronto. That's the purchasing power, I mean. And Newfoundland actually has a bit of an oil industry, which helps too. So Ontario is actually way down there at 48th place. Isn't that incredible? Mississippi is at 57th place. But that means it's still ahead of Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. There's natural gas in New Brunswick too, by the way. They could be very rich if they wanted to be, but their government bans developing natural gas. So they're literally the poorest people on the continent with an income of less than $50,000 each converted into US dollars purchasing power parity. By the way, Mississippi is about 37% black. Now, I checked a statistic that I probably wasn't supposed to, and the average U.S. black income on this same purchasing power basis is just under $60,000 for the average African American in the United States. So let me tell you that amazing statistic. The average African American family is doing better economically than the average family in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, or PEI. For all of our Canadian snobbery and condescension and moral superiority, and all of our focus on race relations in the States, the Canadian media is obsessed with it. African Americans are actually doing better than many Canadians economically. So let me ask my first question again a bit differently. Why would Elon Musk invest $20 billion in Mississippi rather than in Canada? Put aside the Atlantic provinces, but say Toronto or Vancouver or Calgary. Well, first of all, when was the last time you saw any company actually invest $10, $20 billion in Canada at all, anywhere? That actually used to be fairly common in Alberta during the oil sands boom, but the horrendous provincial NDP government in Alberta that one time and the last 10 years of federal Liberals pretty much ended that. And no, the government shoveling subsidies at huge foreign car makers in Ontario to build electric vehicle batteries in Canada doesn't count. And by the way, have you seen just this week General Motors took a $6 billion write-down on their electric vehicles? Let me read from the Globe and Mail article. Many automakers, including GM's crosstown rival Ford, have been dialing back factory work on EVs, electric vehicles, since last summer, when U.S. President Donald Trump's massive tax and spending package darkened the outlook for the EV market. Sales of battery-powered vehicles have cratered following the elimination on September 30th of a $7,500 federal tax credit for electric vehicle buyers. Ford in December said it would take a $19.5 billion write-down over several quarters as it canceled several EV programs, including the fully electric version of the F-150 Lightning truck, an additional electric truck and van. Just canceling it. No one really wanted it without government subsidies. So yeah, Canada forced taxpayers to invest in that fake industry, thinking Americans would be forced to buy electric vehicles, but Trump isn't into that. He's more into real jobs, I think. Hey, I'll answer the question in a moment about Mississippi, but can I show you a very expensive tweet? I think the most expensive tweet in history was when Justin Trudeau said, hey, anyone can come into Canada, and then 50,000 people crossed over at Roxham Road. But in terms of sheer business, this tweet is probably more expensive. It was during the lockdowns, and as you may know, Elon Musk has a big factory in California. And the local public health police in that area were putting so many demands, insane, crazy COVID restrictions on Elon Musk's factories. And Musk was opposed to all that. And he was being quite vocal about that. So Lorena Gonzalez, the head of a labor union in California, who used to be a state assemblywoman herself, was pretty plain about it. I'm going to swear now. I hope I don't offend your ears. You know, here's Elon Musk, the leading citizen, leading investor, leading job creator. And she just wrote, fuck Elon Musk. That's what she wrote. She didn't quite have the courage to spell it out fully, as if it's better to not have the U in there. And then she went on. She kept talking, actually. She said, California has highly subsidized a company that has always disregarded worker safety and well-being, has engaged in union busting and bullies public servants. I probably could have expressed my frustration in a less aggressive way. Of course, no one would have cared if I tweeted that. So she's making excuses. Obviously, she got some blowback. And then she said, the deaths from COVID-19 in California are disproportionately Latino. Our communities have been the hardest hit by far. Maybe that's why we take the public health officials' warning and direction so seriously. So she's playing a race card now. So Elon Musk just tweeted back 2 words. She said, fuck Elon Musk. He said, message received. And then he moved the corporate headquarters of Tesla from California to Texas. And Texas is where he's expanding, where he's investing, where he's growing, where he's hiring. It's where SpaceX is. All his new work is in Texas. He has taken Ms. Gonzalez's advice to heart. Now, he didn't shut down his California factory, but like he said, message received. So right there, do you think for a second that Elon Musk, who would have operated in almost any country in the world, I mean, he's got a factory in China, do you think he would choose to come to Canada where the governments are anti-business to begin with, where so many politicians are just as spiteful as that Gonzalez woman? Like Doug Ford, scrapping a rural internet program that used Starlink just to get even with Elon Musk because Musk is friends with Donald Trump or something. Imagine canceling a government contract, just ripping it up Canceling a service to hundreds of thousands of Ontarians. It was supposed to be an important thing to give internet to people in the country. But you're going to punish Elon Musk. So you've shown that you don't put the public interest first, you put your personal vendettas first. Here's Doug Ford on that.
Yeah, Starlinks is done, and are we surprised that they're not seeing eye to eye? I predicted that as soon as that marriage happened. I thought there'd be a divorce real quick. And
but is the deal just canceled, ripped up?
Yeah, we're done.
Kind of cancellation fee as a result?
Well, we're working on that right now. We're sitting down with the company. I don't want to deal with someone that's attacking our country, and he was one of the number one culprits, Elon Musk, and that's unacceptable. I can't do business with someone that's doing that.
Yeah, if you could open a company and spend $20 billion US anywhere, would you seriously choose a place run by Doug Ford or Mark Carney, where if you do something they don't like, they'll just tear up a contract with you? Maybe if your business was about getting subsidies, you would, but not if you were a real company. So let me show you who beat us, Mississippi. I'm going to read to you the entire story from ABC News. Musk's XAI, so this is his artificial intelligence company, to build $20 billion data center in Mississippi. Elon Musk's AI company, XAI, plans to spend $20 billion on a data center in South Haven, Mississippi. I'll read the story. Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, XAI, is set to spend $20 billion to build a data center in South Haven, Mississippi. Governor Tate Reeves announced Thursday, calling it the largest private investment in the state's history. The data center, called Macro Harder, is being built in Mississippi's DeSoto County near Memphis, Tennessee. Now, that's a riff on Microsoft. Elon Musk is calling it Macro Hard. I think Elon Musk sort of hates Bill Gates anyways. Let me get back to the news story. It will be the company's third data center in the greater Memphis area. XAI CFO Anthony Armstrong said the cluster of data centers will house the world's largest supercomputer with 2 gigawatts of computing power. Just by the way, on the map, South Haven, Mississippi is just across the border from Memphis, Tennessee, so it's very close by. The announcement comes as XAI faces scrutiny over its data center projects in the Memphis area. The NAACP, that's a black lobby group, and the Southern Environmental Law Center, that's a socialist lobby group, have raised questions over air pollution generated by XAI's supercomputer facility located near predominantly black communities in Memphis. Well, of course they did. They're left-wing agitators, the kind who rule Canada. They get paid 6 figures to complain, but many of the actual people working in the factory, building the factory, will likely be black. I mean, it's Mississippi. And the governor isn't about to let some race hucksters stop it, whereas in Canada, we absolutely would. I mean, look at why we can't build pipelines. We have given a racial veto now, apparently, to Indian bands, even though the Constitution doesn't allow it. There will be no oil pipeline built to the west.